Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Concise Webinar. This webinar is about custom-built websites and typically those that are used for e-commerce or those that have a selling capability. Welcome, everyone. For those people who don't know about Concise Webinars, we try to keep them concise. We try to keep them useful, and they're not sales. It's not a sales pitch. This is helping to explain things that are going to be useful. My name is Richard Keeves, and my fellow presenter for this session is Gareth Lane. G'day, Gareth. Are you there?
Hello.
Come on in. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, so there's a couple of key concepts to wrap head around first, and this one is kind of a very good starting point. That an e-commerce website, or any website for that matter, really, but let's say an e-commerce website can be built using either a pre-built system that is designed specifically for e-commerce, a pre-built platform or content management system, but want something that's built for e-commerce, or a website can be built using programming tools that allow things to be built from potentially from scratch, but exactly how it needs to be built. And when things are built exactly how they need to be built, it can generally take more time than using a pre-built system. But you can also generally get a better result because you get exactly what you want. And so you can get exactly what you need. And if a business has got a unique approach to how they do business online or how they need to do business online or want to, then often pre-built systems won't be built for that unique approach. And so having something that can be custom built fixes that and addresses the issue, and you then get something that becomes 100% fit for your business. Now, that's how I've been around in the web industry for a long time now, 30 years, which is ridiculous, but that's how it is. But back in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, we custom built everything. There were no pre-built systems, and so everything was custom built. And that meant that every website kind of took time to build, but also was built exactly how it was needed to be built. And then we started replicating and reusing code. And so, and people thought, okay, well, if we're going to be reusing a lot of code, then let's build systems that can be reused in different situations. And that's where it came to with pre-built systems. So why would you need a custom built e-commerce website? Well, a custom built e-commerce website comes in handy if the limitations of your existing website are holding back the growth of your business, if you need more functionality than a pre-built system can provide, or if you need that functionality, we can often build a custom module to add specific functionality that's needed. But if a single module or even a group of modules won't be enough, then it's a good opportunity to look at a custom built website. And the other reason that people do look at these things is when the fees attached to using a pre-built system, let's like Shopify, which we're going to have a look at in just a sec, it gets to be so high that you want to say, hang on a second, we're paying thousands of dollars or even $1,000 a month in running this website. That's a lot of money. What else can we get that is better for the money and a better fit for us as well? Gareth, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess some people or clients think that they hit a brick wall and go, I can only do this and it can't be done. But generally, things can be done. It just comes down to how much you want to spend on it and whether or not it's worth it. So don't ever think you can't achieve something. Usually the general rule is anything is possible. It just comes down to how long it takes and how much it might cost to achieve. But I find a lot of clients don't know that you can do custom built web apps. They just think that if you're using Shopify and Shopify doesn't have an app to do it, then it can't be done. And you know,
yeah. Whereas we at Concise, we build a lot of custom apps for Shopify to add functionality that may not be available from other apps, or that is available from other apps, but they come at too high a price. So think of these pre-built systems. Shopify is a great example of it. PrestaShop is another. WooCommerce, which plugs into WordPress, Magento, Webflow, BigCommerce. These are all pre-built systems designed for e-commerce and designed to have an easily managed website that you reuse code that other people also reuse, and you can deploy websites relatively quickly. On the programming tools, they kind of generally these days come into two camps. There's the sort of the Microsoft camp, where you have people who operate and build in .NET, Microsoft.NET, or there's the PHP camp, and which is open source, free open source stuff, and that is also very flexible. Microsoft.NET is very powerful, but it comes at a price. PHP, very powerful. We like Laravel, which is a framework for quickly building things in using PHP. And so we're going to be talking more about Laravel, as well as some of these other things. So when it comes to it, it's a question: what are you going to choose? And the systems that we use and recommend are Shopify, PrestaShop, WooCommerce, Shopify Plus when it's appropriate, Webflow when it's appropriate, and Laravel. The reason, like, no one can be expert in absolutely everything, but we have enough clients and enough team members to have significant expertise in those technologies or those systems that we do work with. And so Gareth is going to run through some examples of why we would use one over another.
Am I? Okay. Good job I wrote this then, wasn't it? So I know what I'm telling you about. So and some of this I've tried to keep this fairly non-sided. Concise is not wedded to one or the other. I always say that we're agnostic and we try and find the best platform to suit, but generally we don't do Microsoft or .NET. So all of these recommendations, I guess, are in our wheelhouse, and the opinions are based on our use of them over many years, some more than others. So I guess that's a little disclaimer. So Shopify, super easy to use. Don't think I've ever had a client say that's too difficult, I can't figure something out. It's very intuitive. Most features that you want to be able to use, particularly the standard sort of stuff, is one click. You can, install an app and do it yourself. If there's features in there that it doesn't do, there's a very comprehensive third-party marketplace full of apps that generally can achieve most functionalities, but they do come with a monthly fee, most of them. So those fees can add up fairly quickly if you have a lot of additional functionality that you need. For us, for a development team, it's probably the easiest platform to code in, with some exceptions, as I've written there. Shopify's major, I guess, roadblock is not being able to edit the cart and the checkout to an extent. And so if you have a business with a particular need to do something different in the checkout or the cart process or the ordering section, then you can't do a lot of modification there. And in some versions of Shopify, the lower spec plans, you can't do anything. So that's a really important one. There's a monthly fee, and that's getting higher. It used to be a lot less. It's just gone up. You're talking $150 to nearly $600 a month monthly fee now.
There are lower entry points with Shopify, but
but you generally find you can't use them unless you're just a baby little e-commerce site. I find nearly all the ones I've ever dealt with are on those sorts of price buckets by the time they want to add a couple of extra users or some extra feature or extra currency or something. But yeah, you are right. It does start a bit cheaper than that. You don't have a hosting fee. There's no server. There's no requirement for hosting, with some exceptions. Credit card rates are much higher than if you're a typical store that's doing $5 or $10 or $20 million of turnover. The rate that you can negotiate with your bank is usually far less than what Shopify does on off the rack. So it's an important consideration. 1% of $10 million is a reasonable size number. So that's important to know about that. Their advertised best rate is 1.4%, unless you go for Shopify Plus, and then you can negotiate with them. But Shopify Plus has a $2,300, US dollar, so you're talking about $4,000 monthly fee and a 3-year contract. So you really want to make sure you're choosing fit for purpose before you go Shopify Plus. And I guess the one that's always bugged me, which I think was a little bit naughty, the way that they advertise it until just recently, is they add an additional fee if you use a different payment system that isn't Shopify's credit card. So if you want to use PayPal or Afterpay or ZipPay or any third party bank transfer, pay over the phone, anything like that, then Shopify will take an additional 0.6 to 2% on top. So PayPal charges you 2%, Shopify will also charge you 2%. If Afterpay charges you 6%, Shopify will also charge you 2%. So you end up paying up to 8% of your order in fees, and that at volume is one of the major reasons why people sort of don't want to do Shopify anymore, and they want to choose a platform that doesn't have those high fees. But for your small, typical, small e-commerce business, Shopify is hard to beat.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is
WooCommerce. So this is an add-on for WordPress. So it comes with all the pros and all the cons of WordPress. Lots of features. It's pretty easy to use. Does most things out of the box very easily. It has the same problems WordPress has. It can be insecure. It needs to be updated regularly. It can be buggy. And the problem with WordPress is that it's created by a community, and so there's no, let's say, authority or parent company sort of checking and making sure things all work exactly as they're supposed to. So that can be a bit frustrating, I think. It can potentially have a high hosting cost if you've got an e-commerce website that has a lot of plugins and apps, or what they call plugins in WordPress land. It's got good flexibility. You can sort of pick the best of the merchants, the credit card rates. Generally, I think WooCommerce is sort of fading out a bit compared to what Shopify can offer, but there is still good use cases for WordPress versus Shopify, and so WooCommerce is a good add-on. To the next one.
Okay.
PrestaShop, one of my favorites for a long time, really, because it's a very, very advanced, very functional, very feature-rich e-commerce platform that's open source, which means you don't pay any license fees, you don't pay any subscription fees, you're not subject to any upgrades, you don't have to upgrade it, you don't have to update it. It generally doesn't get hacked, but it is, I guess, lacking in modernization. In the last couple of years, Shopify really has taken a lion's share of the market, and so don't think PrestaShop have particularly put a whole heap of new work into it. So it's getting, let's call it, a bit old. It does need a reasonable size hosting server, so that can have a monthly fee. But again, because it's open source, there's no percentage fees, there's no subscription fees, and so you can use your bank's merchant facility and get the best rate possible there. So generally find this is used by larger businesses that have higher turnover volumes. It's definitely not for small e-commerce business because it takes us a lot of time to code in and can be quite difficult to use if you're not sort of familiar with it.
Right. And now, so that's some of the pre-built systems we talk about. Now, moving into the programming tool that we like, Laravel. Gareth?
Yeah, so Laravel came about 10 years ago when I had a number of clients sort of asking, can we do this? And we said, no, can't do it in this, can't do it in that, probably can't be done. And then some of our developers said, well, there's this new thing called Laravel. It's kind of like Lego. If you picture a big box of Lego and say, I need a red brick, a green brick, and a blue one, you can kind of build them together without having to create the brick from the beginning. That's the easiest way to think about it. It's really good for being able to build complex, big websites, very specific functionality. It loads really fast because it doesn't have any add-ons. You don't start with anything, so you have to create the admin. So if you think Shopify, PrestaShop, WordPress, you start with something and you configure that to suit what you want. With Laravel, you actually build it. So you build the screens, you build the settings pages, you build the boxes, and so there's nothing in there that you don't need. So the biggest pro of Laravel, which is being able to do effectively whatever you can dream up, means it's also the most expensive to code in. So upfront cost is the highest, but the ongoing cost is the lowest because there's no fees, there's no subscriptions, there's no licenses, there's no percentage cut. And because it's you only build what you need, it's very low resource for a server. So the servers that it runs on is much cheaper than, say, PrestaShop or Magento. And so the business case for Laravel is always, if you've been through the options of the off-the-shelf ones, which are cheap to, or sorry, a lot cheaper to code in, and there's something in your scope of work that is a function that it can't do, or you get to the point where you find that other platforms are very expensive in the sort of couple of $1,000s a month in fees, then a Laravel project is the best option from there. And I'm going to just demonstrate a couple of examples shortly. Here we go. Well done, Richard. Okay, so in order for me to do this, I have to find the share button, which is this one. Just if you can do me a size check, Richard.
It needs
small.
to be bigger. Yes.
It needs bigger. Okay, let's go bigger. How's that?
That's getting there. Maybe even a bit bigger would be nice.
A bit bigger. All right. We might not be able to see all the information, but let's see. So without going through in huge detail on all of these, I just want to point out a couple of different examples and what was unique about their business that couldn't be done in another platform. So this particular company here, they have one business and they want one place to manage their customers and their orders, but they have 3 front ends. So it's, they have 3 different websites, all selling very slightly different products, and they want to be able to manage all of that from one place. Now that's very difficult to do in a PrestaShop with using its multi-store, and to my knowledge cannot be done in Shopify. And so this is an example of, these are the orders that have come in, and it's all color coded to which website it came through. And then what makes it even more complicated is that they have a lot of people who start the ordering process on the website, but then they continue it on their phone, being a phone call. So they needed a solution that was an e-commerce website that would allow multiple domain names, multiple websites, and then multiple ways of a customer completing that journey.
Just for clarity, what we're looking at here is part of the admin console. This is not the public-facing part of it.
Yeah, sure. So their particular admin also has, your products. You set what domain you want the product on, and certain products get sold in certain locations. So, for example, this Weber barbecue is only allowed to be sold in Perth, whereas the Westinghouse chest freezer can be sold, everywhere. So that's something that's very difficult to do on other platforms that, in Laravel can be easily done because we've made it that way from the beginning. They also have this concept called, do you want fries with that? That's a fairly simple upselling concept, but there are lots of conditions with prices and who's allowed to have certain products with others, and so that got complicated in another platform. And so that's their website. Another one here, this one's called Roberto. They provide, they sell Italian food and beverage products to supermarkets, and they needed a system that their sales reps could use on an iPad.
Bit
so
bigger.
I'll just make it a bit bigger. Yeah. And so their menu looks like this. A couple of the key things that they have an ordering screen. The colors mean certain things to them. They need to see a certain amount of information. So in their order processing screen, they only want to see client name, the date, the preferred delivery date, products, with a number to expand it that you can click, and then it shows a little pop-up to say what their order is. So businesses like this get very frustrated with Shopify, WordPress, PrestaShop, so on, by the default layouts of things, when this particular business needs a very specific layout with specific colors that mean to certain things. some other things that they have. They have a fortnightly budget for their sales team, and so this particular client in Mount Lawley, they need to buy these items consistently every fortnight, and so all the information that has been presented on the screen has been thought about and designed for this business only. That's really the key selling point of doing a Laravel website, is to build something that's fit for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else has got. It's make something that I want. They've also got general public orders that all need to be pulled in, and then they've got all their clients, and they've got some extra rules that have been in here. So this thing, particularly here, company name, it works out if this client has not ordered for the last 2 weeks. So in a nice, simple way, they can see that their regular clients have not done an order for the last 2 weeks, and that prompts a little pop-up that says message, and that sends a text message to that customer to say, hey, do you want to do another order? So we've really sort of thought about the sales process for this business and tried to incorporate all of this into an e-commerce management system that does their stock, their pricing. You can pick and pack from there. So everything's in there. Okay. Another one. This particular business sells warranties for cars, motorbikes, boats, etc. And so you click get a quote, and then you type in your registration, wherever you are. And then I think you go cert on Case. Just going to make one up here. And then it goes and finds that particular car, finds your vehicle. Then you fill in your details. 1, 2, 3, and then type in my email address. Too many zeros in there. Phone number's not valid. I did have not enough zeros. And I don't know if you can see how fast this loads, but it's almost seamless. You can hardly, and it gives me a quote based on here, and then I can purchase online. That takes me to the next section, and then I can continue with my signature, and then continue and check out. So it's very simple, but it does all the work in the background. There's an admin that allows them to manage what they need, and so trying to do that in another platform becomes very, very difficult and full of stuff you don't need. And so that, again, is one of the key selling points. My last example, if I take a breath, is this one. I'll just go bigger again. This one also has very particular things that they needed it to do. They used to have a Magento website that they couldn't do a lot of these things in. They have a lot of people who use the cart, and then they stop at shipping, or they stop at carts, and they need their products checked or validated. They do a lot of quoting. So a quote then gets converted to an order. So this business can quote in the e-commerce system. You can then view the quote. The admin then gets the ability to impersonate the customer and then change their quote, or they can edit the price, or they can add details to it. They can basically be a customer and edit the bits and pieces. They can then manage the order. Obviously, there's a lot of information on this screen, but I'm just trying to point out the key things. They sell a lot of products that have components. So this one SKU is made up of a number of sub products, and they need to be able to see the stock of each of those sub products. They need to be able to see the margins, and you can see here that the margin is different on some items. They need to know what type of customer they are. Quite often the customer, the person ordering, is different to the company's accounts details, so you need to account for those sorts of things. Shipping addresses are obviously very different, or can be different to billing, so we account for that. They wanted a particularly powerful status and email system that allowed you to see the emails all from inside, and they needed a particular layout where it had certain information in certain places. So everything has been kind of built and customized to suit them. They've got a very advanced search system, in the background here. You can search by certain SKUs, products, categories, currencies, prices, margins, stock. Everything loads really quick. They also have this system called a custom builder, and what this is like a decision matrix for certain products go with other products and have lots of options. So this gauge that they're selling, there's five or six different versions of the gauge, and then depending on what you select there, you can decide whether it has a display, what its uncertainty is, and then does it change the weight? Does the price get changed? There's just a lot of configuration that they needed that is impossible to build in anything else. They also have this, which is pretty cool. It's called a stock planner, and this is a daily report that can be filtered by suppliers and currencies, and it tells them what they need to order. So a e-commerce website doesn't just have to be an e-commerce website. It can also be an accounting package. It can also be a stock and inventory management tool. So this spits out a daily report on what they need to order, all in one screen with no other crap on that you don't need. There's got lots, if I want to do a US dollar order, I can click US dollar and filter by that. If I want to do a particular supplier, I can filter by that. If I just want to look up for a particular product, I can do that. As I say, you can see how quick it all loads. That's because there's nothing in the background they don't need. It's only what they need is shown here. They also manage returns through this website. They've got companies with multiple contacts. We accounted for that. They've got lots of different people that order from one customer. So we accounted for that. They have different pricing for different roles. So this is something that gets very difficult. If I find an example, this can get very difficult with off-the-shelf platforms when you need a lot of power for pricing. So if you follow me through on this, so it starts with the supplier's price and their currency. It then works out the supplier's discount and the final price. It then pulls the conversion rate daily, calculates the net cost in Aussie dollars. It then calculates the shipping cost based on a heap of factors, any duty, and then adds all of those things together to give a landed cost, and then it applies the margin, and then gives the final price. And this resets daily. So the whole website is repricing every product daily based on the live currency rates, with lots of options to override it if you want. And then we've built a system that allows different discounts for different types of customers. So if you're a reseller or you're a preferred customer, you can have a discount. And then we've allowed for multiple quantities. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then of course you've got special pricing if you want to put on discount. So that is extremely powerful from a pricing point of view. Again, all done in Laravel. I've talked about the stock planner. What else did I want to show you here? We've built a sales history. This is also something that a lot of clients ask for that can't really be done in off-the-shelf platforms. If I want to know how many of a certain item I've sold in the last 3 months, we built a tool that allows you to do that. So I can type in that, and it says, well, these SKUs in the last 5 or 6 months, these are how many we sold, and this is how many we quoted. So that means that this becomes very powerful for a business manager or inventory buyer to work out exactly what they need to buy based on sales history. They've got different freight rates, so certain things come in from different zones. So we had to build that. There's restrictions on certain customers and what they can use to pay with. This one also I really like. A lot of off-the-shelf platforms, it's quite difficult to modify all of the emails. So one of the things that they wanted was a system that you could modify all of the emails. So there's 30 different emails. And if I find one that's a good example, say your order here. This is the, no, sorry, that's the wrong one. If I go the customer one here. this we created a system that all of these little fields in squiggly brackets are what you can use in the email. So it allows the client to be able to create these emails and edit by inserting default shortcodes we created, and they can create their own emails and their own email template all from their system without needing us. We then built all that in a log as well. So there's a tab for logs, and you can see all of the emails that were sent. You can then see a copy of it, you know, if there was who it was sent to, when it was sent. So it was always nice. And then, yeah, we talked about currency. So I think I might take a breath now, Richard. That
was pretty good.
Quickest run through.
Yeah, quickest run through. Gosh, what you would have seen there is the power of having something built as a 100% perfect fit for purpose. And as I was just thinking, as you were going through that, Gareth, it took me back into the late 90s and early 2000s when we used to custom build everything. And a typical website, custom built, like a complicated website, not a simple little baby website, but a complicated website might have cost between 20 grand and 100 grand.
Yeah.
Because it needed to be custom built. And in the business that we had, we used to do that. And I think the biggest custom built system we built back in the late 90s was about 400 grand for a particular client.
Yeah.
Which was a big deal. But if Laravel had been invented then that 400 grand would probably be I don't know, like a lot
under half, I would have
yeah
thought.
exactly. But what was really good when in the kind of the last 15 years is the evolution of the pre-built system. So something that used to cost 50 grand to get custom built might now be off the shelf, and you could get it all configured, and you might only spend 5 grand on doing that, or 10. And so this pre-built systems have definitely got a place where you can reuse or where you can configure that which has been built already. Then it's really good to be able to do it because it's going to cost less and the business case is better.
Yeah.
But where you can't, and where your business needs something that's unique, or so that you can function how you want to function rather than functioning how the software forces you to operate, then you can get what you need, and it doesn't need to cost so much. I mean, some of the, like that Transtext system, what would that have been, like 100 grand sort of?
Yeah, that's the ballpark. I mean, the budgets are based on how much function there is, and you know how complicated it is to do. But people ask, what does a Laravel website cost? And say you start the conversation at 20,000. You know, if you haven't got 20,000, you don't even start. Most of them sort of are in that 50 to 100,000 kind of range. But I often do the maths with clients, and they get that money back in the first year, either in cost savings from apps and fees if they're a larger business, or labor time. You know, quite a few of these examples I've shown have been able to reduce their staff by 2 or 3 or 4 people because the system is doing the work that admin people were doing or sales people were doing. And so, you know, if you can save a couple of $100,000 on labor or staffing, then $100,000 to build it is just a non-event. It's a no-brainer. And I find the clients that, if I think about that Roberto one, they've had that system for about probably not 10 years, but 5 or 6. And they can't believe what they can do with it, and they just keep asking for new ideas. You know, they say, "Oh, could we do this? Could we get it to do that?" You know, and once the client understands the power of it, it's kind of limitless as what you can do. As I think I wrote in the thing, you can do whatever you want. It just comes down to budget. And so that I think is what we're trying to get across in this webinar, is that if you can dream it up and you can think it, then it can be done.
So one of the things that is really important, and we don't have any slides on this, but I'm just kind of thinking that we need to mention it, is that it does require significant analysis of the business so that you can develop the, let's call them screens or pages. So you can develop the screens that need to be on the system with the information it needs on that screen, and then what happens when a bit of information's there, or if there's a button, what does that button then lead to, and what does the next screen need to have? And so there is a significant amount of planning that's required for a custom built website, because you've got to think through the process. But what you can do is you can think through exactly the process that you want, because that's what's going to be built. And so there is a planning element that you don't often need to have when you get a Shopify thing, because you're just going to get what Shopify is going to give you. Whereas with this, you're really looking at your own internal processes and saying, what information do we really want? What do we need? And what then happens on the next screen after that and after that? Yeah. And so there is a planning component that needs to be built into it.
And as I sort of stressed, like, you start with nothing. So you don't start with an interface. You don't start with we or someone has to draw the tables and the layout and the screens, and that's how you get whatever you want, because you have to think through all of the data that is shown on the screen, and put that into a field.
Yeah, and fortunately, we've got people in our team who do the thinking. They work with the client as a sort of a business analyst, and to work through and help understand the process and define the process really clearly. But it's part of what needs to be done as part of the job. Yeah, okay, right. Well, that's pretty good. I think we've gone a little bit over time, but hopefully that's been interesting. I've certainly found it interesting. I've seen stuff behind the scenes that I didn't even know we've built. That's very clever of Concise. So well done us. Okay, so if you need any further info on any of this, talk to Gareth.
Nothing like a baton pass, but yes, yeah, exactly. I'm probably the resident brain trust for Laravel jobs.
Yeah, I mean, Malcolm, Caleb, and myself, the other directors, and we also know about this, but Gareth kind of does look into and look after a lot of the Laravel work himself. So if you've got any queries, talk to any of us, but and feel free to phone and have a chat. Gareth, what do you want to say just to wrap up?
Yeah, and I think it's just, it doesn't just have to be a e-commerce website either. We've built things like marketplaces for food and beverage businesses that connect farmers with grocery stores, and we've done auction websites that you can buy number plates on. Laravel can be used for anything that is in a website. You can build a CRM, you can build an intranet, you can build, you dream it, we can create it. It doesn't just have to be an e-commerce website.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant, good stuff. Thank you everybody for attending, and this has been another Concise webinar. A little bit over time, but there we go. Thanks very much. Thanks, guys. All the best. Thank you. See you.